If at any point in your life you have felt so burnt out that you couldn't keep working on something anymore and you had no other choice but to take some time off and it ended up taking you longer than you expected to recover, or maybe you still haven't fully recovered, I feel you because I've gone through the exact same thing. And in this video, I'll show you exactly what you can do to reset and remove that feeling of burnout from your brain, honestly, in less than one day, and also what you can do to prevent it from ever happening again in the future. So in a way, you become immune to burnout. And the reason I know what I'm about to teach you works is because years ago, with the second business I ever had, even though I was earning between 30 to 60K a month in profit, I ended up having to undergo like a 1-year nightmare of never-ending problems that ended up destroying me internally. I got super burnt out, and honestly, it completely demotivated me for a good year or two. I felt like I could barely do anything for a long time. I almost got PTSD out of that. But eventually, I figured out 3 things, which is what I'm going to share with you in this video, that completely solved burnout for me. Number 1 is understanding how it happens, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what actually causes burnout. And then once we truly know how it actually happens, we can figure out point number 2, which is how to cure it. Because people really get this one wrong, and that's why they get stuck in these never-ending loops of burnout that they cannot escape, right? Like you feel burnt out, you take some time off, you come back, you feel burnt out again, you escape again, and this cycle never ends. So I will teach you the real way in which you can cure burnout. And then once we understand this, we can figure out point number 3, which is how to avoid burnout for the rest of your life forever. So you will not feel horrible ever again. So number 1, how does burnout actually happen? The real way burnout happens has more to do with where you are going and not so much of where you are right now and what you're currently doing. It's not so much about how hard you're working in the present moment, contrary to what many people believe. It's more about the future projection of things. For example, I'll give you 2 real life scenarios from my own personal life that on the surface, they might seem pretty similar, but one resulted in burnout and the other one didn't. So we have scenario number 1 and then we have scenario number 2. And let's see if you can guess which is the one that burned me out. So scenario number 1, in late 2019 and early 2020, I was doing affiliate marketing and I was earning between 1K to 2K per day profit. My whole business model was just promoting other people's products through Facebook ads, and I would basically just get a cut from each sale. Very simple, beautiful, easy way to make money. But then a few months into 2020, that thing that shall not be named, but I'm writing on screen right now, happened. And in a matter of weeks, it almost completely wrecked my business. Okay, I went from what I would say making quite a lot, decent amount of money, to just very little or nothing at all. I was having all sorts of problems with Facebook ads. I was getting my account shut down, my ads disapproved, yada, 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 like all sorts of things. And also at the same time, Facebook was changing some of its policies, which was making the niche that I was in way more difficult to monetize. And almost for 9 months straight, I kept fighting and grinding and putting in the hours, but I just couldn't figure out this thing. And eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. So I just said, screw it. I stopped the business. I moved on to the next thing. Luckily after that, I got into crypto, which back then was a really good time to do so. So I ended up making really good money anyway. So happy ending. But now let's look at scenario number 2. This was in 2018. I dropped out of college, got a job at a real estate agency doing marketing for them. And I started an e-commerce business on the side. And for 8 months straight, I grinded and I've worked like I had never worked in my entire life. Honestly, still to this day, one of the periods in my life that I've worked the most. Every single waking hour, I was working. No matter how I felt, no matter how tired I was, if there was something that needed to be done, I did it. And then after 8 months, I was able to scale my business to 100K a month. And then I quit my job and the rest is history from there. So happy ending as well. Kind of like scenario number 1. So which one do you think burned me out? It was number 1, because burnout happens when there is stagnation. This is the key word with all of this. When there are no signs of progress, but you keep pouring a lot of work and a lot of energy into something. In both scenario number 1 and scenario number 2, I worked very intensely for very similar periods of time. One was 8 months, the other one was 9 months. But in number 1, I was stuck right here. I kept putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into something, but I was getting nowhere. Not even the slightest sign or indication of progress. I just kept hitting my head against a wall. While on number 2, I was slowly making progress. Yes, at first I was making no money, for sure. Just figuring things things out, but then slowly I started to get some traffic. And then it was like 3K a month, and then 14K a month, and then 30 or 40, then 50 and 60, and then eventually more than 100K a month. And this positive trajectory is what helps to keep your mind fresh and motivated, even if you're not having great results at first. Because obviously one important thing to understand is that if you're starting something new, whether it's starting a new business or getting in shape for the first time in your life or whatever it is, of course, at first, you're not gonna get proportionate results to the amount of work that you will be putting in. You'll have to give everything from you and get very little back, or maybe even nothing at all for a while. But you might see signs of progress. Like, that's the key word here too. No results, but signs of progress. That's all you need. You know, here at first, I think for the first 3-4 months, I made no money, but at least my ads were getting better, my products were getting better, my website was improving, I was getting more traffic, more clicks, maybe a few sales here and there. So there are signs that things are happening, and there is a direction, and that's all you need. And that's why I said that hard work is not directly causative of burnout. Funnily enough, there's been things in my life that I have done that even though I didn't work that hard, I quickly felt burnt out. And then other things in my life that even though I was working a lot and giving my everything, I felt motivated and energetic and I wanted to keep going. At times, I even thought to myself like, hey, shouldn't I be feeling tired by now? Should I feel burnt out or something? But I didn't. I felt great, so I just kept going. And I felt that way because I had that positive trajectory that I was talking about right here. And this is why it's so easy for people who have 9-to-5s to feel so easily burnt out, because it's easier to feel stagnated and to be missing that feeling of progress, especially after a few years at the job, because that's when you truly start to feel like, hey, I'm not really going anywhere. My salary is not increasing. I'm not being promoted. I'm getting paid, but maybe I'm not being properly compensated. And outside of work, maybe nothing interesting is happening to my life. And they might feel that they're stuck in a position that is not taking them anywhere interesting. And you can very easily feel burnt out in those scenarios, even if you're not working hard. And of course, if you're working hard, then the feeling of burnout is going to be way more intense. So how do we fix this? Let's move to point number 2. Now that we know how it happens, let's figure out how to cure it. Look, going on a vacation and taking a break, which is what most people do, is not going to fix anything for you in the long run. Temporarily, it might work, but as soon as you get back to that unfavorable position that you were in, sooner or later, the burnout will reappear. It's funny because in the past, whenever I felt burnt out, I have tried to take long vacations, like 1 week, 2 weeks, even a month or longer. But then the second that I got back to doing whatever it is that I was doing before, immediately, and I mean immediately, I felt the burnout again. All those days, weeks, and months of vacation out of the window, all for nothing, almost instant burnout. So what you have to do to fix burnout is take a proactive stance. Instead of just trying to wait it out, which, by the way, waiting it out is by far the worst thing you can do, or escaping it via rest with a vacation, which is what most people do. What you have to actually do is to tackle it right on. And you have to tackle the root cause of burnout, not the feeling of burnout. Because when you escape, when you take some time off, when you go on a vacation, all you're doing is dealing with that uncomfortable emotion, but not the real reason, the real cause of why that burnout exists on the first place. So what you have to do is take a hands-on approach and run straight at this. So you can dissolve the root cause of burnout, hence dissolving the emotion as well. This is similar to like shitty life syndrome. So people who think they're depressed, but in reality, the only thing that happens to them is that they have a shitty life. So if you want to fix that, what you have to address and what you have to fix is the shitty life, not fixing the symptom of a shitty life, which is depression. And what we have to do to fix burnout, this cause of burnout, is to create a new arrangement in your personal situation that either facilitates proper rewards for whatever it is that you're doing or proper progress. And honestly, kickstarting this sometimes can be as simple as just sitting down, analyzing your situation, and coming up with a new plan, a new strategy, some new way in which you're going to take action that's different from what you're currently doing, and that you see that has some potential to eventually generate some results, to make some change, to get things moving. And if you look at your problems in a new way and you come up with a few new ideas on how you can do things, just that alone, the fact that now you at least have some new option, a new path, that alone can motivate you in a matter of seconds. You can feel this energy and vitality grow inside of you. You can quickly become more positive, have more hope, more faith, and all of a sudden you can finally put in the work. I sometimes see this with people who buy my consultation calls. Sometimes they come to me because they're struggling with something. Very often it's business related, and I can see how demotivated and how hopeless they are about some problems that they're facing. But then slowly, as we start to analyze their situation and we can come up with a new plan, a new strategy, and how it's going to be executed, you can quickly see in a matter matter of minutes how their mood quickly changes, and the excitement and the energy starts to build up, and all that negative crap goes away. And what you realize in that precise moment is that you did not need to take some time off. That feeling that you had of wanting to take some time off, it was just your brain signaling you like, hey man, there's a problem right here. Something is wrong about this situation that we're in, let's fix it. But for some reason, we take this signal from the brain that something is wrong as the problem itself. We think that burnout itself is the problem. So we try to get away from it, but in fact, you have to do the opposite. Sometimes, in fact, you have to get even closer to that feeling of burnout. And that's how you can finally put it out. But sadly, we live in a society that has conditioned a lot of people to escape their feelings, to cover up their feelings, instead of addressing the root cause of that feeling. It's kind of like the same thing with health. A lot of people just focus on numbing the pain that's caused by their health problems instead of addressing the health problem itself, which would obviously consequentially fix the pain. So you always have to go to the root cause of things. That's how literally you will improve every single aspect of your life. Now, obviously, I'm not implying that this is going to be easy for everybody. Some people's situations, for sure, they are very complicated. But hey, it's your responsibility to change that. No one else will do it for you, and only you will suffer the consequences if you don't. You can blame your boss, your job, your government, your family, your friends, or even God if you want. But it ain't gonna change nothing. That fire is gonna keep burning and hurting. You gotta do it. And hey, you might end up realizing that maybe it's not as complicated as you thought. And it turns out all you needed was a new plan and a little bit of courage. Which, by the way, if you need help, I'm here for you. I've already helped dozens of people on problems like these and very similar ones. So if you're interested, go to my website for more information, link in the pinned comment below or the description of this video. But now lastly, this takes us to point number 3, which is how to avoid burnout for the rest of your life. The big thing that's really difficult to accept for most people, because it's a reality that a lot of people don't like, is that focusing on progress and constant evolution is better for your mind and for your brain than focusing on finding stability. Sometimes people make this question that, in my opinion, is quite silly, which is, why do rich people keep on working? Well, because if they don't, they burn. You have to keep it moving, right? You have to keep walking. Your mind is made to solve problems, to figure things out, to take action. Having like $50 million in the bank, but sitting all day on a beach is a miserable experience. It's fun for a few days, but you quickly get existential dread, and you can easily test this yourself. Like, you don't need 50 million to test this out. You can just save up some money to be okay for a few years, go move somewhere where it's cheap but beautiful, anywhere in Southeast Asia, and then go and do nothing. You will see, like, within a matter of 1, 2, 3 weeks, you will feel horrible. I personally know many examples of people that once they retired, their entire lives fell apart, especially if they do it young and they don't have a family. People don't always like this reality of always having to move on to the next thing, because on the surface, it can seem unhealthy. It feels obsessive, but it's not. That's how we're wired. It's like nature one-on-one. It's basic evolution. And keep in mind that at no point I am saying at which speed you should go. You can just find your own rhythm on how fast you want to make progress. Just be careful though of not going too slow, because then for some of you, it's gonna feel like you're doing no progress, and we're just gonna go back to square one, and you will feel like some burnout or existential dread or something. Besides, I would bet that most people can go way faster than they realize. Yes, maybe at first it's a little bit difficult to get it going because you have to start pushing the ball of momentum. But once you have things going, like, you can really start to accelerate a lot. And that's when you really start to feel really good. Now, one question that you might have after watching this video is, how do I know when enough is enough? How do I know when to move on to the next thing? Like you did right here when you were doing affiliate marketing. How did you determine that after 9 months you said enough is enough? And I'm trying all of these things and nothing seems to work, and I don't know what else to try. I've tried to come up with new ideas, right? As I was saying right here, but you don't know what else to do. In that case, I would recommend you to go watch this video that I made right here a while back, because it's gonna give you all the answers you need. And I would actually say it's one of my most underrated videos. So go check it out. Remember to subscribe too, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Have a great life. Peace.